Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 623. We are live tonight. It is Thursday, June 26th. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Rob.
Yo.
And Christian.
What up?
And Serge.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Serge
It's been a minute here.
Yeah, he's been less frequent than me.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been a lot going on, but just moved into a new place, so I finally have like a proper space to do stuff. So I'm hoping to be on a lot more. But
that's exciting.
Yeah, fiance, she works night shifts, so during the week if she works, there'll be like days where I get free time. It's just that for some reason it hasn't worked out where she was working on a Thursday or Wednesday. So glad to be back. I'm hoping to be on more shows in the future.
Nice. Well, you got a nice setup there. Your room's putting mine to shame, I feel like.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. I still have a lot to do, I feel. Like I haven't lit up the DTOLF cases at all. They have lights, but they don't match the temperature of these, and they threw me crazy because these are brand new. Yeah, like I bought the lights for this one brand new, so I'm just gonna buy the same brand all around. It's just that all that stuff. Yeah, all that stuff costs money, so I'm doing it as I can.
They'll change it on you, and it'll be like, oh, they're different.
I know that's like the worst on all this stuff. It's the same thing with like your bookshelves and like your display stuff. It's like even if you go, like a lot of us kind of go with that key. I know Rob and I think we both have Billy's, right? And but like they change those up like every once in a while too, so you have to just kind of watch out. Where
I have 4 different types of Detolf.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, they came through the generations, and they just kept changing them. So they don't look the same, but they're not the same.
Put something in
now
between
they don't exist
so
anymore.
Can't tell.
But yeah, at a distance, that looks great. So
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, lighting has been my big gap that I started working on once. I didn't really like how it came out, and
at least it's easier for you where they're white, so they're easier to see. Mine, because I went with black because like my desk is black, my DTOLFs are black, so I didn't want to throw the whole color scheme of the room off. But I did want at some point I did consider doing white because it's easier on the dust and then easier to not get drowned out. Because even with the light, some of the stuff in the back can still get drowned out.
Yeah, it's. Also, to anybody that is setting up a room or whatever, you may want to like preemptively put a few small holes to run wiring. Like there's no way I can like running wires behind all this would be a nightmare. I don't know what I would do. That's why I don't know what I'm going to do. And maybe I'll never do anything. I'm pretty lazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday I posted today in one of like the Transformers display groups all my stuff. But I did all the wiring myself. Maybe I should like post what I did one of these days because I basically like drilled holes in each shelf and then kind of like daisy chained everything together. So the sides are where the wires are. So like when you first walk in, you can see the sides like right here have wires. So like that part is ugly, but like I figured like I think for now I covered them with duct tape, like black duct tape. It doesn't look
electrical tape
great. But it'll at least blends in. But like in the middle ones, since all the wires are tucked in the middle, there's not that many that are running behind. Like all that's running behind is just like that power cord.
Yeah.
I feel like though this is why we can never move, right? Like that's where
this Illinois was horrible.
I was going to move to Iowa, right, from Kansas City, and I, like halfway through, I'm like, God, this is just I don't know if I can do this.
We lost you, Serge.
I know my camera decided to not work. Oh, there we go.
Go.
Yeah, so when I was going through the process, I thought that I had organized my bins a lot better than I did, but it turns out that I didn't. So it was like a whole fiasco of like, where is everything? Because my plan was I brought everything and then I basically dumped everything out and I was like, okay, what do I want to go up? And then whatever didn't fit went back into storage and stored it back in my parents' place. But I brought everything initially. So that was like a big chore because I thought that I organized everything well and I didn't. So it was like 3 days of like hunched over bins and my back like felt like it was going out.
By the way, Zaldron asks who's the new guy. So right. I think he's thrown a little shade at you.
Yeah.
That, Serge is only Christian's imaginary friend.
Yeah.
That's true.
They're just a figment of Christian's imagination.
Yeah, it's a collective hallucination at this point.
If you ask us, he's my crony.
You were originally mine.
Or I'm your crony. I think it depends on the day.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Well, that too.
Depends on the weekend.
But yeah, we got some chat going here. I know Superior Nav earlier mentioned that Transformers 1, I guess, did they officially announce that there's not going to be a sequel? I just assumed that it was not happening.
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
I didn't know. Didn't see the news but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like the writing was on the wall type of thing. And the director, Josh Cooley, was at this past BotCon, and that was one of the questions that he was asked. And yeah, he confirmed himself, like, there's just no plans right now. So, and as we know, there were plans for a sequel to Rise of the Beast. I think they're like, originally they said they wanted to do a whole trilogy off of that, but I think it's safe to assume that none of these are happening, at least in the near future.
I still haven't watched Transformers 1.
It's really good.
It's really good.
You should watch. Yeah.
Oh no! Like I mean, I mean to. We were actually probably going to just watch it together as a family one night. And it just, I don't know, just haven't.
Right.
Not any hate or shade or anything.
I think the marketing for that movie didn't do it just justice. I know that's not to go off on a tangent, but yeah, the few marketing they did, they painted the movie as something completely different than what it actually turned out to be. And even I was skeptical at first because it's like, oh boy, you know, the fall of Cybertron story again. And I think like that alone also kind of killed the hype a little bit because, you know, it's like I feel like we did a rehash.
Yet again.
Right. It's like Uncle Ben and Batman's parents, but that's like our version is like seeing how Megatron and Optimus drifted apart. Like, you know, as if it's some sort of big secret that they used to be friends.
You know, depends on the continuity, but I assume this is it. TF1 was just its own thing anyways, right? Just kind of...
Yeah, pretty much.
It follows the same story beats, but...
It pulls from other sources and is influenced by them, but it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
if we want to talk media news...
That they say that there's going to be an animated Transformers G.I. Joe team-up film, Christian. So that's...
Oh, boy.
Oh, Christian is already... He is super hype.
Yeah.
He's all...
If it were a team-up movie, like you said, film, that would be really great. Because it'd be one, and it would be over, and I wouldn't have to deal with it. It's a series, though. At least that's what we've heard so far.
Well, maybe it'll be so successful that that's just all it's going to be going forward is G.I. Joe and Transformers together forever.
You know, might be really successful? A Transformers TV show that's not weighed down by a dead property from the 80s that no one cares about today.
People do care about it. I'm not one of them.
I don't think anybody under 40.
No one under 40 cares about it.
Could be. All I know is that when Hasbro started, like, they relaunched G.I. Joe a few years ago, like, the toy line, like, it was, like, selling out everywhere. People couldn't find them, and, like, it was a really big hit. But
classified because they moved to 6 inches. People like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Just made it seem like it wasn't completely dead, and we lost Serge again, or unless he's just really happy.
He's real happy.
I think he's just really happy. That's what I'm going with. So I don't know. Do we want to start with, and hopefully Serge will be back?
Real quick, before we do, just
okay.
Since we're talking media news, Kirkman is going to write the next series of the Transformers comic. I think that's pretty big news. Like, Kirkman is a big deal. Walking Dead, Invincible. So, like,
he's taken over from DWJ at number 25.
Like, I might finally check out the new Transformer comics. I haven't. I've heard mixed reviews on it. I've heard that Void Rivals is better, like, just as a book by itself, It's the best of the new universe or whatever, but any of y'all read any of it?
I am one issue behind on Transformers now. I finally caught up.
So you didn't read Void Rivals?
I have a bunch of those books and have not read them yet.
Do you like the Transformers book? So it's mixed with you at best.
I really hated it at first, so that's why I quit reading it, and then I kind of decided I would just catch myself back up. And it's better than I initially thought, but it's not good.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Zaldron.
I need to catch up.
He says to skip them and to read Void Rivals instead. And I felt like that. Like, I read, I think, the first half dozen or so, and they weren't bad, but there wasn't anything that was really hooking me. I actually thought Void Rivals was more interesting, but maybe it's just because it's a new property, something different. Yeah,
I am.
Kirkman's a good writer.
I'm optimistic for Kirkman because I read all of Invincible in about a month last year. That was really crazy. But he's absolutely a better writer than Daniel Warren Johnson. So, maybe he knows Transformers. I think that's what it's going to come down to, right? Does he know the characters? Does he understand who they are as people more than just, hey, I remember when I was 5 years old and slamming my action figures together in the sandbox? So if Kirkman knows more than that about Transformers, I think we'll be okay.
Well, I'm excited to see how it turns out. And if people like it, I'll pick up a trade probably. I don't know. I'm too old to read month to month. I just can't. I don't have the patience for it. And I forget what happens, and then just like setting it up and dealing with it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
I've been buying the trades as they come out, and I'll get around to reading them eventually.
IDW used to be cool, and they had a little recap thing about what happened in the last issues. The Skybound books do not have that. I really missed it.
What was it? I think it was like Marvel books used to, sometimes they would have recaps and it was fine, but like DC, I think it said every comic needs to be someone's first comic, and they would not allow them to do recaps. And they're like, so it was like, I don't know if they still do that, but it was a thing. And I was like, every issue would start like the first 2 or 3 pages would basically be like exposition dumps to catch people back up on what was going on, like trying to do it in like a clever way, right? Like, oh, there's the big battle, but the whole time like, oh, I can't believe you just did that thing. Yeah, because it was to do this and this, remember? And it was went on for
that's
a
one
while.
way to do it. It's kind of organic.
It is a choice, I don't know, especially back in the before times when kids bought comics, hey, every comic is someone's first. And I think that's a good ethos, but I also think just a recap on the inside cover is really easy and straightforward and cool. So
right.
Please do. But all right.
If I'm not mistaken, Serge, we're talking about what could happen if the new BotCon were to potentially get a new Transforming exclusive, right?
Yeah. If Lucas doesn't mind, I guess I can kick off the
first to set
topic.
The stage, I guess, too, about BotCon. So it just happened recently, right? Like a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And you went, was that right? Who all went?
Yep.
Is it just you?
It's basically from the cast, me, Paul, pretty much it.
So we have plenty of folks that have been to BotCons in the past before, Agabus
BotCon is going to be totally different than the previous incarnations.
But so what's been your experience with the new BotCon?
Yeah, so I've been to a couple of the Fun Pub ones. This was my first post Fun Pub BotCon, And I think what Rob said is pretty much like nail on the head. They really try
and we lost Serge again.
No.
BotCons used to, and it's just not. Oh, do you lose my camera? Or do you lose my voice too?
We lost both of you after
now
like
you're back.
10 seconds.
Oh, what I was saying was they really want it to look and feel like the old BotCons, but it's not. They're not doing a great job. It's just without that Hasbro presence, I feel like it's not the same. But that BotCon definitely, it's like that's like your old school fans convention. Like if you're looking for vintage G1 stuff, unreleased prototypes, stuff like that, like that's kind of where you go. Someone who I would like, someone who's on the younger side of the fandom, I would say like it's definitely like you see the older crowd there. Like, you know, I mainly collect Bayformers and stuff around that era. And lost me again.
No, we still hear you at least.
We can hear you.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
Well, at least you can hear me. Like it's just pretty much all like G1. Like you walk in the dealer room and it's like 90% vintage G1 or like G1 third, not even G1 third party. There wasn't a ton of third party at all. But it was, you know, the stuff that you would see at the Fun Pub BotCons essentially. But really without that Hasbro presence, it just doesn't really feel the same. Like the only reason I went was because it was a 3-hour drive. Paul was already wanting to go out there. It was Father's Day weekend, which was a terrible choice because I heard that Sunday was absolutely dead, which is no surprise to anyone. But if that was really the only reason I went, was I was like, okay, Paul was willing to drive us out there. So we went out Friday night and then came back Saturday night. So we just did a one-night stay. And honestly, that's all I needed. Like the dealer room was just maybe half, if not less than half the size of TFCon. So like 2 hours in on Saturday, I had already seen everything. And like, you know, sure, there are a couple panels, but there weren't many panels. There's maybe a couple panels throughout the day. And then they also have some panels that are behind paywalls. Like you can only do certain panels if you had the weekend pass. You can only do certain panels. Like the Josh Cooley, I think was like the VIP pass only panel. So it's like they had like stuff that were behind paywall. It's just, I don't know, like
that.
It has a touch of that classic like Fun Pub, like you need to give us some more money. It's not a show that I would. It's not a show that I would go out of my way to attend again. It's just like if the stars kind of line up type of thing.
Did you just do general admission for the day?
Yeah, just did general admission for Saturday. Just bought my pass for Saturday.
What was the price?
Like $40 for one day, which is pretty standard. I think TFCon is like $30-$40.
I mean, TFCon has a much larger dealer room. And
the weekend pass is like $70, which is like on par with other conventions. Yeah. But again, like I wouldn't go. And then the thing is too, is because like BotCon, I guess I know there's that crowd of folks who have been going since the Fun Pub days, so they know the song and dance. But there's a ton of new people in the fandom, and from speaking to others that were in attendance, there was a lot of people who did not realize there was a Friday dealer room. Funny enough, one of those people was Aaron Archer. We were talking to him at the bar on Saturday, and he told us that we were like, "Oh, Aaron, so like, when did you get in? Like, how was your trip in?" And he was like, because I asked him like, "How was his drive?" And he was like, "Yeah, like a 4 or 5 hour drive." He's like, "Got here like Friday at like 2:00." I was like, 2:00? Wasn't there a like? Don't you have a booth? And he's like, "Yeah, like nobody told me, like, hey, there's a Friday." Like, he said none of the organizers mentioned to him, "Hey, Aaron, you should be here at this time." And then there is also another thing where they misbooked his room. So he was originally booked with somebody else. Like he shared a room with somebody. I don't recall who it was, but he knew that person at least. But he ended up getting his own room. And then it turns out the room that he got rebooked into, they only booked for one night. So it's like, it was a whole mess. So it's, it was just like, I really tried to like the show, but there's just way too much going on. Like, so it's just not great.
You drove 6 hours to spend 2 hours in the dealer room.
Pretty much. I mean, we spent, like we got there late-ish evening, like Friday evening around like 7 or 8. So we at least got to hang out with the folks that were there. And that's really what we do at these conventions, is just to see the friends. But like the actual convention part of it, it's like, yeah, I woke up. I didn't even wake up on time the next day. Like I woke up whenever I woke up, like went down to the dealer room, and then walked around for like 2 hours, bought some stuff, got lunch, and then I just kind of sat there like now what? It's like there's only so much to see, and because it was just like, it's not like TFCon where we at least know several people vending. Chuck Liu was there, Artfire 2000 was there, so like we talked to him for a bit. Transformerland guys were there, so we talked to them. But like, it's not like where we have kind of like a home base at TFCon where we can just kind of sit and relax. So I was just kind of wandering for most of the day and just going back and forth to the same booths over and over and over again. But that really kicked off that conversation because the rumor before the convention was that Agabus was in talks with Hasbro on getting a Transforming exclusive again. And then after the convention, it was kind of confirmed. Like, it was a talk of the town amongst the dealers. Some of the organizers were even talking about it too. We don't know the extent of that conversation. We don't know if that conversation has gone anywhere. We just know that there was a conversation. But that got me and Paul thinking of like, where does BotCon fit in this kind of post-Fun Pub world where during its heyday, it was the go-to convention because it was the official con. Like, there's official Hasbro presence, there's official Hasbro toys and merchandise, and that draws people. It draws people to get those exclusives. It might not be the main draw, but having the Hasbro presence was probably a big draw. And then now it's like TFCon has really taken that role of the premier Transformers convention, at least in the US, where I feel like every fall show that we attend, it's like the whole cast is there. It's a packed dealer room. The lobbies are always packed with people, where BotCon just didn't feel like that. Like I didn't.
And if you go as a dealer, you make gangbusters. You will sell 80% of your crap. It's
right. I mean, just like that first post-pandemic Baltimore show, where by Sunday nobody had anything because everybody just cleaned house.
Right. Well, like I kind of felt like
it's been great every year.
Right.
It's been super.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is I feel like it's just the post-pandemic, like, whatever, and then every year I've went, it's been the same thing where it just like it seems like the sales at TFCon are so great, and like I mean they've been selling it out too, right? Like I mean they've
I think weekend passes in the last couple of shows have sold out prior to the show. Like you can still buy day of passes, but the weekend passes have definitely sold out at the last couple of shows. But I mean, just like walking around the room at TFCon, like just walk around. There's a lot more diversity, not in the sense of like, like diversity as in I see a lot of other Latinos and black folks. Like it's just diversity. Like you see older fans, you see younger fans. There's a lot more of a non-male presence versus again, BotCon was very much your old school. When you think of a Transformers fan, this is what you're going to see.
Yeah. I mean, again, TFCon has plenty of that, but I noticed, BotCon or TFCon has plenty, old white male, balding. But I remember the first TFCon went to like post BotCon, and I was blown away. It just like I remember there was this just all kinds of like fangirls there, and James Roberts was there that year, and like his panel was just packed, and it was I don't know, it was just like, oh man, there's like whole other parts of this fandom that just I haven't seen, and I don't know, I thought that was really cool.
And I think TFCon, just speaking to like, Ryan Sheehy, who's our friend that's involved with organizing it, just speaking to him on kind of like the things that they've implemented to kind of make like cast a wider net. Like the main thing is the artist alley. Like he was saying that's the one thing that they've had the most, not so much trouble, but I guess challenges on improving, because even 5 years ago or pre-pandemic, the artist alley was maybe a couple guys selling customs, maybe some guys selling some artwork, and now it's like its own thing. Like there's it's its own section.
A huge part of the dealer room. It's like a solid at least like 2 rows.
Yeah,
the whole dealer room.
A lot of these vendors have been selling at other non-Transformers conventions for a long time, and so Ryan has told us that they've been taking their feedback on how to improve TFCon's Artist Alley, because they're basically just taking feedback from how other conventions handle it. So I think they've done a good job of listening to what the attendees and what the fans are saying. And my camera doesn't want to work today, so I guess I'll be unavailable. I guess I'll be Lego Yoda for today, but at least you can hear me. I think TFCon is a lot more open to change. They're a lot more open to casting a wider net, where I feel like BotCon doesn't really care if they grow. I think BotCon really, truly is like, they kind of want the same guys year after year. And that's kind of how it felt with the vendors. Like, the vendors that you'd see there during the Fun Pub days were there. Like I told Christian, Harold was there, which Harold's a great guy, great vendor. But it's like, he never does TFCon. And he's never done a TFCon. Like, there are certain guys that are just loyal to the BotCon name.
He was at TFCon.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, so that was the first one post Fun Pub, right? Well,
no, it was that was 15.
I think that was the only one he's done, because I haven't seen him for a while. We thought we were like, hopefully nothing happened to him, because we hadn't seen him in
a while.
So long.
I was really happy.
There are
collectibles, by the way. That's his store.
There are certain vendors that are just loyal to the BotCon name, and they won't do TFCon.
I mean, I think there's also this. It's funny because now Agabus is like the main face of BotCon. How do we all know Agabus? Buying third party. Right. But what you're saying is like there's still that like anti-third party bent to.
Yeah, like
BotCon,
he was really the only one that had third party, and even then, like 90% of his booth was Blockies, and then there was maybe 2 racks of third party, and then the rest was Hasbro stuff. And then ages 3 and up was there, but they had a much smaller setup that they do in TFCon. Like TFCon, they pretty much have their own island. At BotCon, it was just maybe 2-3 tables, and again with just a couple third-party things, some Hasbro stuff, but not a lot. So yeah, there's still like that kind of, I guess, like you say, stigma against third party. I just think that a lot of the BotCon organizers and the BotCon attendees just don't care. It's not that they don't like third party per se, they just don't buy it.
I mean, like, third party is such a huge part of the fandom now. And it's like, not only have they cut that out, but like, we're talking about the other parts of the fandom that TFCon is like, everybody, Transformers, anything, come on in, like that Artist Alley, it's really cool, the different type of stuff you can find there. Like the plushies, the people that bring the plushies in there, the handmade custom ones, they are.
She sells out. Yeah, she sells out by like halfway through Saturday.
Right.
Yeah, and then but there's like all kinds of other just Transformer related crafts and art you can find there, both like art like posters or drawings or prints, that type of stuff, but also other artistic things people might do.
Like Non-F comes with his upgrade kits, and there's other folks that do like third-party bases and third-party like 3D printed bases and like 3D printed weapons, stuff like that. Like there's none of that at BotCon.
I mean, you can get shirts, you can find just all kinds of just random Transformer-related stuff. Like, the majority of it's toys. Sure.
I got Transformers washi tape at TFCon last year.
What tape?
Washi tape.
I don't know what that is.
It's big and stationary. It's like a tape that you put on to decorate stationery. It's nice. They have stickers on.
We have a friend of ours who she's going to be in an Artist Alley at TFCon. This is her first TFCon, and my fiance is going to be helping her run the booth.
Lulu's Darling Creations going to be there.
Yeah. So it's like stuff like that. It's like we're even like for the first time, like that's her first ever TFCon. Like she's never done Transformer items before, but now, like, because she went one day with us to TFCon, she really enjoyed it, and now she wanted to vend there. So it's like, I don't know. It's like I said, it's just a very completely different vibe at TFCon. Like, it's just like I don't want to say I didn't have fun at BotCon, but I didn't have as much fun as I do at TFCon.
It's so weird, and I mean, part of the reason I didn't want to like actually name this episode, BotCon, like whatever, because it's like I don't even want people that are associated with it to somehow, get wind or
end up here,
and somehow end up in whatever. But the thing I think is interesting about this whole BotCon thing, right, is what was the point of them coming back? Right? Like, I think that what they were doing before, like when they were associated with Hasbro, like fantastic, and they had a really, nice thing, right? Like once they lost that association, and maybe now they're still trying to get that, right? But like what exactly are they offering that is different? Like to where you would want to go there.
It's nostalgia beyond nostalgia. Like the whole, or not, I shouldn't say the whole, but a lot of buying toys is nostalgia for us, right? But like they have nostalgia for the BotCon name, and like, oh, back in my day, there wasn't all this third-party crap. Back in my day, this was the convention. So, and I mean, I'm not against like, man, BotCon used to mean something. Let's make it mean something again. I think that's cool, but it doesn't. I mean, this is a fandom that's, if about anything else, in both literal and metaphorical ways, is about change, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, go back to no third party.
I don't know.
It's not banned there.
It's just weird to me because, like, I know, and again, like, I would help run TF Expo, which I know Zaldron was asking about that. We are not having a show this year. Sorry, I realize every year we've been getting that where people are like,
no,
"Hey, you have a show this year," and it's like, no. Look, man, that was.
Bet you said it, not me.
But the one thing that we tried to do at TF Expo, I felt like, was try to be more accessible to everybody. And so one of the things is like we made it super cheap as possible to get into the convention itself. I think that like, what was it? Like a general admission ticket for like Saturday was like $10 or something like that. It was like nothing to get. And then like what we would do is we would like add different packages. So like if you wanted, we had some various exclusives and customs and things like that we made that you could get in on. But I mean, even like the guests that we would bring in, and we brought in like a lot of like the G1 voice actors and things like that, but we were really cognizant of trying to like have them be somewhat affordable. So a lot of their autographs and things like that they were doing, it was relatively inexpensive, for people. And so like, we were just trying to be accessible to the local fans there, right? But like, I don't understand what BotCon. Did we lose Christian now too?
Nope.
Oh, he's back.
Anyway, but the thing with BotCon, like, I don't really understand when, that say, and it's not necessarily that they need those extra things like the Artist Alley stuff and different things like that, right? Like, but it's like disappointing to hear that they had like some premium tier that it's like I can't actually like fully enjoy the convention if I didn't.
You're telling me that
Super Pass.
The panels were lamer than what TFCons are, and for what I don't really care about panels these days because I feel like I've seen everybody, and I'd rather hang out in the dealer room.
Right.
But dealer room's always been the biggest draw of a Transformer convention because it's a hobby about buying crap.
Right.
It's half the size, and they're trying to charge TFCon prices, and now they're looking for like microtransactions for your
right.
For your
it's at least like back in the fun pub era, they would at least like, all right, if you bought the VIP ticket, you at least get like a good seat. But if you bought the pleb day pass, you can still go in. But no,
you don't get first.
Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I misunderstood and misread. If someone, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I am like 99% sure it said like weekend pass holders only.
I've talked to people every year that I've went to BotCon, and they're always like, they're like, yeah, it was a cool show. They're like, it was a smaller show, whatever. And I feel like you get your big shows like TFCon, and they charge TFCon prices, and it's 2.5 days, and there's just a lot going on. And like, I feel like BotCon's trying to charge like that, but they have that small show experience, which like your TF Expos or your Dairy Cons, like CharterCon back, the one good show it had, just. I don't know. It just feels like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too a little bit. And it's like, y'all are a small show. You should restart and treat yourself as a small show and let it grow up again instead of just immediately, $30, $40 day passes and VIP access. And, I think they again, we don't know numbers, but obviously, like their first year exclusives didn't sell well because they constantly are still trying to sell them. Much like Fun Pub's first year, took them forever to sell their 2005 sets.
Right.
Let's get into talk about those exclusives because that's how Serge lured me onto this topic.
Yeah, and
they had real quick. It was official branded stuff this year, right?
They did.
I do want to say one thing real quick before we jump into the exclusive talk, because me and Christian have brought up this topic too, is that I still kind of feel like BotCon is going for that, like, this is a vacation. This is your family vacation. Like, where every year it was in a new city and they would do, like, you know, we're having like a cruise tour or like a city outing type thing. They didn't have that at Fort Wayne, but, you know, that kind of was clearly what they were trying to go for when they held it, like, at the American Dream Mall. Because it's like, what other reasoning would you have for hosting a convention inside of a mall? And then even that first year where it was in Asheville, like, they were using a brand new, like, hotel, and that, like, alone scared me out because it was like $250 or something a night for the hotel. Like, it's really expensive, but they're trying to defend it by saying, like, oh no, it's like brand new, like, it's a really nice hotel, like, they just built it. But it just feels like they're really trying to stick to that, like, yeah, this is your family vacation type thing, where, like, some folks like Duran have said, like, well, in a post-BotCon world where they no longer go to BotCon every year, now they actually take a family vacation. Where, you know, back in the day, a lot of folks have told me that that was their vacation. They would take the wife and kids down to BotCon for, like, the whole week, you know, because there were those, like, outings in the city and tours and bourbon tastings and stuff like that they would do outside of the show. And, like, I don't know, I feel like they're still trying to do some of that, but it's just, I don't think it's working.
I mean, last year was at the same location as this year, wasn't it? For BotCon?
Yeah, last year was at the American Dream Mall, wasn't it?
It was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago.
Oh, what's last year?
They did Fort Wayne. They did Fort Wayne 2 years in a row, and I don't think it's returning next year, is what I've heard.
Well, it sounds like they may be getting rid of that then. They're like, screw it, we're just going to stay in one spot because it's easier.
Yeah, I think they might go to a TFCon model where, like, Chicago's like the home base, and then they do an East Coast show. But now TFCon seems like they're just going to do Baltimore and Chicago alternating. And I think I've heard that BotCon kind of wants to do that,
and the Toronto show.
Yeah. I think BotCon wants to do that, where, like, Fort Wayne is, like, kind of like the home base, but then they do a new city every other year or something like that. At least that was the rumblings that I heard amongst the dealers.
Well, one thing is like,
oh, there you go.
I feel like it's actually pretty difficult to move around in general, right? Because, like,
logistics are tough.
Yeah.
Well, they did such a poor job of it in the Fun Pub days. They'd be like, all right, 3 months until the show, here's where the show's going to be. Good luck.
Right. But, I mean, like, in general,
a lot about that.
Sorry, Rob, what were you saying?
Like, you know, Fun Pub did talk a lot about that, like how they would think they had places ready to go, and then they have to go on site and inspect the hotel, because they would say, like, oh yeah, you can do this, and they'd get there and they'd be like, no, you can't. Like, this doesn't have room for people to, like, unload, you know, things like that. So then they'd have to scramble and try to find somewhere else, and just the logistics of every time of finding a hotel in a new city was always more time consuming than they would think. So yeah, right. I think moving around's got to be tough.
That's what I was gonna say. Is you had to have people local there for any logistics, and so especially, like, working with the hotel and all that, like, you can't sign a contract with the hotel before looking at it. I mean, well, you can, I suppose, but, like, that's not a good idea.
Yeah,
and so, like, move. That. Yeah, so, like, that's the thing is like, I feel like you have to have organizers that are in whatever city that you're doing that in. And so, like, that's, you know, you can't just, like, spring in and be like, oh, we're going to do Orlando and then we're going to do whatever. Like, you know, you got to set the groundwork with, like, all that stuff. And most of that planning, I mean, it takes a couple years to do a lot of that stuff too. So yeah, like, it is not a good idea to just constantly move a convention around. And the other thing too is like making the connections with locals and shops and things like that, like for advertising, right? So that they're, like, expecting it year after year, or, like, I mean, I think TFCon has a pretty good cadence where, you know, they're kind of doing the alternating thing, right? Because it's like, I feel like if it was in Chicago every year, that you wouldn't be quite as excited to go to Chicago. You'd be like, whatever, sure. But like, I think the fact they do it every 2 years, that it's just like, I feel like that's kind of the right cadence. Like 2 or 3 years is probably the right cadence.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Florida show was like the one-off show just because they wanted to try something different. But then when the pandemic hit, they weren't allowed to back out of the contract. So that's why they skipped Chicago that one year. But like, just, speaking to organizers and speaking to dealers, it sounds like that's what's going to happen is Chicago and Baltimore are going to be the alternates, which makes sense because both of those they're both great venues. I mean, the Chicago venue is not my favorite of those hotels in that area, but it works for them. It has a great load-in, at least. Like the load-in and load-out is probably the best one out of any of the hotels they've hosted it at. Baltimore's their
Baltimore's load-in.
Yeah, their load-in sucks, but they're also easily accessible. Like the hotel itself. I mean, the train literally drops you off right in front and takes you right back into the airport. There's like a block of walking maximum. And then you're by car. There's possible for multiple East Coast cities, and also you can take like Amtrak and stuff like that. And I think that's what attracted them to it. And also, it's just been it's a nice hotel. Like the hotel itself, it's a great hotel, very clean, lots of places to eat within walking distance. And I think all that stuff really, is what kind of makes the convention. Where at Fort Wayne, like even getting there from Chicago is tough because there's no expressway that goes there directly. It's like you go into Indiana, then you get off the expressway, and then it's farm roads for like an hour and a half. And like if you're trying to fly in, pretty much your only option is to fly into Chicago, rent a car, and then drive 3 hours because like, your only other option would probably be Detroit, which is also like 3 hours away. Indianapolis, which is also like 2 hours away. It's like there's no convenient airport if you're flying in there. So you're pretty much either you're driving no matter what.
I thought for sure you had to be full of shit. And so I Googled it, and like major airports, the nearest one is 100 miles away.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it says there's a Fort Wayne International Airport. It was talking about one's near it.
International airport,
right? Yeah, those smaller airports, like if you don't have a direct flight, you're going to be paying a bunch of money to do like at least one connection minimum.
Yeah, I mean, so you can get an airport, or there is an airport there, I guess is what I'm saying. It's oh man, I just went to like Southwest website and I type in Fort Wayne and it's like no.
Wow.
There's
probably like a Delta or United or something where they have like a puddle jumper that like lands in there.
I thought for sure it would still have a connection or something, but man,
I go to Portland, Maine for work here and there, and like the plane they put us on, it's like almost the size of a private jet. Like that's how tiny. Like I've never been in a United plane so small.
Is it like one of those things where they're like, "Sir, you're gonna have to like go on the other side of the plane to average out the weight there"?
Yeah. Yeah. We've been told that before. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how tiny it was. It's like, hey, we're not a full flight, so let's shuffle around to distribute the weight a bit.
My only real gripe was Chicago. Well, like sometimes traffic can be bad getting out, or in. I guess that depends, but it's right at that borderline of should I drive or should I fly? Where it's like a 8-9 hour drive, something like that, where it's like I can do it and then I can bring toys to sell, but it's like, or I could fly and not have to deal with driving. It's just like it's on that borderline. It's a pain.
Yeah, and if you fly, like O'Hare is like 5 minutes away. Like you just Uber to and from the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one criticism I have with the Chicago location is that like it is not in the city at all. Like the Baltimore one that they've had in the last couple of years is pretty neat because it's like it's right there.
Oh, it's there.
It's right there.
Yeah, Baltimore's the only one they hold in the city they named the con after.
Yeah, that's true.
TFCon Toronto is not in Toronto. TFCon Los Angeles is not in Los Angeles. TFCon Chicago is
Orlando
not in
Orlando was in Orlando.
Was in Orlando. You're right.
I mean, to be fair, when we had TF Expo, we didn't actually have it in Kansas City either. So It was
wow.
It'd be like right on the edge or whatever, like Independence and whatever, like the suburbs that are like right there. So.
Well, I remember BotCon Chicago. It was like advertised as Chicago, and it was in St. Charles, which is like 45 minutes away from the city.
Close enough.
That's the one I boycotted because
it's like at least like
2 weeks ahead.
Like at least Rosemont, where it is, Rosemont literally borders Chicago. So like sure, but like St. Charles was like literally 45 minutes away.
At the hotel, time forgot.
Oh my god, that place was. Rest in peace.
It was fun.
A Pheasant Run.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it burned down.
Yeah, yeah. They it was like two teenagers. They vandalized it. They actually I think they got sentenced like a couple months ago. I remember seeing on the news. It was, yeah, they broke in during the pandemic and.
Whoops. Oh,
and
so
Magnet says he's looking forward to Chicago TFCon. Are we all going to Chicago TFCon?
I'm planning on it.
Yeah.
I haven't put together my plan yet, but I am planning on it. You know, like do I have somebody I can split a booth with or be a booth helper and take a corner, like that type of thing. I need to put it together, but I'll be there in some way.
Paul's looking for help, so I'm sure if you reach out to him, I think he has like 20 tables or something like that.
No, he bought a bunch of tables. He bought like a whole thing, but he split it out amongst everybody.
Yeah, I think
I often help out Orson, but I don't remember if Orson got one or two tables, so like he may not have space or need help. I don't know.
I don't think Paul needs to sell any more tables or whatever. So
yeah,
he's planning.
I think he wants helpers, so
yeah, I'm sure that he would love to have helpers. So there you go. If anyone would like to volunteer at Paul's table.
There you go. Where nothing's priced, and you just say, I don't know. And somebody asks you how much something is.
That is literally every dealer.
What are you asking me for?
I help another dealer too, Aaron or whatever, and it's the exact same situation where every year I'm like, can you please just price your stuff? Like I want to help.
All my stuff is priced. All my stuff is priced. Orson's really good at pricing all his stuff.
Right.
My favorite Paulism that happened. Like there's two Paulisms that happened without fail. The one with when it has no price, where he just kind of like throws his head up and goes, I don't know, I don't know, come back later. And then the other one is he pulled it at this BotCon because he was vending out of his room, where it's like someone will pick something up and they'll be like, oh, how much for this? And he'll go, I don't really want to sell that. And it's like, okay, dude, like, why are you bringing stuff? And he's like, yeah, I prefer not to sell that. It's like, all right.
What a dick. Like that is like the worst. Whenever I talk about crappy dealers, those are the behaviors I talk about. It's just like, oh, come back later and I'll tell you how much it is. I mean, I don't want to ask how much a price is to begin with because I don't have to talk to anybody that I don't need to talk to. Put a damn sticker on your stuff. I thought he did a good job I thought he had everything priced at TFCon last year because it was right next to me.
Yeah, I think he did.
He did.
I had to help him set up his table though at one point. He was like losing his mind. And he just like froze up. He like shut down, and I was like, he's like, can you help? And I was like, because I kind of like organizing stuff anyway. I was just like, go away, and I'll take a first stab at all this and kind of get it grouped out and get it out. And he came back, he was very thankful and grateful, and he tweaked it a little bit after that. But yeah,
see, I have a hard time doing that for other people because like I know that I feel like I'm somewhat particular with like how I like my setups and everything.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily like want to, set up someone else's stuff and then they're like, wait, this is not how I would do it at all.
I mean, my opinion on that is then do it yourself.
Right.
It's fine. But if you're like, hey, help me get this stuff done, it's like, cool. Like, again, I've helped Orson set up a ton of times, and sometimes just like, hey, do you know where you want this to go? And it's like, oh yeah, put that stuff over there. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'll put that type of stuff over there. But if you're just like I don't know what to do, then it's like, okay, we'll move. And
I feel like Orson has it down to a science though. And I mean, he doesn't have as much stuff to like he almost has more equipment than like what he needs of like the stuff he's selling, which is actually kind of nice, right? Because it's like literally he can just like pop it all open and be like, all right, there you go, I'm set up. Like whereas the rest of us are all sitting here like with like bins and that like, oh, I don't know where this goes or that goes, and there's no prices on anything, and like Orson just has that whole setup with like all the baggies and the prices, and yeah.
The best thing is that he's not bringing those stupid pegboards anymore or whatever. Those things
Oh my god!
They cut my hand
Baltimore
open year.
Yeah, you slice your hand.
Yeah, and I mean, even when they don't slice your hand, they're annoying to carry and to set up and all that. But he's finally small enough that he doesn't do that anymore. But exclusives, it's like 9:53. We should talk about it.
Oh yeah, the two posted topics. So I'm gonna get criticism from Anna now because she says that we're not organized or stay on topic. So
you're the one who picked the reveals thing. I don't think the rest of us need to talk about that.
Well, just because it just happened or whatever. But I don't know. Like she was telling me, I just
the order of Megatron, Constructicons, and One Star Stream, and some other stuff. Oh, Gamer Girl Thundercracker. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, it's all stuff we've pretty much known about.
So this year, BotCon actually had some branded stuff, which I think that must mean like the current, in my opinion, leadership at Hasbro has. I mean, we know it's changed a bit, but like them being willing to work with BotCon, who is ran by Agabus, who sells third-party stuff. Like, I'm surprised, even if BotCon is like really diminishing that, I'm surprised they're even working.
I think what would happen, I have no idea. Serge, you were there, you can tell me. But I feel like Hasbro works with YOLO Park. And BotCon works with YOLO Park.
From what I've heard, that's kind of what happened. Like, that was the backdoor deal. That was like the workaround. They wanted an official exclusive, so they went to one of the licensees to get an official exclusive. And apparently Hasbro wasn't too happy the first year. Like, it wasn't like a don't ever do it again. They just were like, can you kind of give us a heads up or type of thing? Like, it sounds like they at least wanted to know from Yellow Park. I think there was like a miscommunication or something. I don't know the full story or the full extent, but that's kind of what I've heard, that they were just a little kind of like, what's going on here. But yeah, this year they had an additional, because last year it was like, what was it, like Magna Convoy and Sunstorm 2-pack. This year it was the Cliff Jumper that was originally supposed to be an original character, but Hasbro, of course, said no. Yeah, said no. So they released it as Cliff Jumper.
Why they care? That always surprises me that they're. It just feels like it's like they're like, well, we didn't. I don't know if you're familiar with the not invented here syndrome.
It's
it's like. Yeah, it's just like, well, we don't know what that
probably, is. So and then I wonder also like how the legality behind that would be, because it's like BotCon came up with that Ladybug name. It's like, is that then fall on Hasbro to try to get the trademark, or like who does it fall on to? Like, I'm sure that was more so the reasoning was like, well, now we have to do a bunch of extra work.
And they figured that. What did you read? Do you guys know the story? I can tell you the story briefly.
Go for it.
No, I don't know it.
Okay, very briefly. When they announced it as Ladybug, when BotCon announced it as Ladybug several months ago, the TF Wiki made a page about it, and it was tagged under unofficial events or whatever. That word unofficial is going to be key here. So when Hasbro wanted to do final approvals for this thing with YOLO Park, they looked up who Ladybug was. And, like, the answer is nobody. But because it was in a category with other things that eventually became official, what Rob said, not invented here syndrome came in. They're like, well, Red Bumblebee has to be Cliff Jumper. We can't use a fan created thing and bring that into an official capacity. That's not really what was going to happen because it wasn't a pre-existing thing. Like Serge said, BotCon came up with Ladybug. That's the thing. And then Hasbro Legal was just being too cautious and not willing to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. And the cool thing, I bought the exclusive because I like the concept of Ladybug. So the cool thing was they kept the color scheme. So all I did was I just bought a Decepticon faction and just put it on the figure, and like now it's Ladybug. Because they kept like they kept the eye color, they kept the faceplate, and then they kept that Cliff Jumper was a female in the little comic that was included. So it's like, it is but it isn't type thing. And then the other 2-pack, which if Anna's listening, I still have to ship her stuff, but I think at this point she's moving, so I'm just going to wait until she moves.
Yes, please wait.
But I picked up for her the other set, which was Sound Blaster and Cliff 2-pack. But yeah, so like, it's like they want to have that official exclusive, so they kind of backdoored doing that with Yellow Park. But I just don't think that that's enough to like have someone like, oh yeah, I gotta go to this convention now. Like yeah, I really like the concept of Ladybug, but I was already going there, so I picked up the kit. But like, like I'm sure that there were people when they would do the official Hasbro exclusives. I'm sure there were years where people were like, wow, this box set is so cool. Like I have to go to this convention.
Yes.
So that's how me and Paul on the drive back, the 3-hour and whatever drive back, what we were talking about the entire time pretty much was just like, if they truly are trying to get a Transforming exclusive again, one of the things that we talked about was, what can they even do as an exclusive? Like, we are assuming that to start off, if this happens, it'll just be a one figure, not a box set. But
yeah,
Christian and I have talked about this, where like Hasbro is willing to do all these weirdo characters nowadays. Hasbro is willing to do extensive repaints and extensive remolds to do some of these obscure characters, that's what FunPub would do. And they would also do some non-obscure characters, like in the early Classics days when Hasbro wouldn't give us a Thundercracker or a Thrust. Like that was where BotCon came in and gave us those Classics characters that we didn't have officially from, or we didn't have it from Hasbro themselves yet. Whereas like nowadays, it's like we have Generation Selects, we have the Capsule, we have other avenues of exclusivities. We have like those Target 4-packs. So like there's multiple avenues nowadays where it's not just, back in the day, all they would do is recolor. They wouldn't even bother molding a new head. They just recolor an existing mold and be like, hey, this is a new character now. Whereas nowadays, it's like we don't really see that anymore. Like we're starting to see either their own original molds or just an extensive remold of an existing mold to make it look like that new character. So me and Paul were trying to say like what would they do nowadays? Like what would be an exclusive? And would they maybe go the route of a shared exclusive of like, okay, well maybe we'll allocate, a certain quantity of a Generation Select so that you can buy it at BotCon at first, and then you can buy it somewhere, at a general retail or something later on. And I also don't think that they're willing to do like small production runs anymore. Like, BotCon would do 1,000 pieces, 500 pieces. Like, is it logistically, reasonable for Hasbro to do? Right. Like, can they make that small of a run nowadays? Is that worth the effort and money?
It was different when they were directly tied into the convention where it was going to be sold. Hasbro was part of BotCon. They had extra incentive to fiddle with those small runs, and even then FunPub said it was like a fight every year to get it done on time, like because the factories just didn't want to do it. It was such a small run, they didn't care, and it was just to get put off, and they do it so late. I mean, how many years did we have stuff that came in wrong? Like paint apps were wrong, there were misassemblies, and like some of them they're just like, we can't fix it, they're all wrong. They're just like they
like the machine wars hoist.
Yes, that's literally who I was. The main one I was thinking of. That said had a
Cannonball.
What was wrong with Cannonball?
The panels that go down on the legs, they can't
fold
down all the way.
But so like, if they had trouble doing small runs back when Hasbro was hip with BotCon, like I can't imagine they would now. And like I remember when they shut down BotCon, I remember Hasbro talking a big game. It was all BS, which is what a lot of us suspected anyways, but they were like, we're not going to walk away from this, and then they had the dumb HasCon. And they're like, we're going to keep, your exclusive toys coming or whatever. And I remember like one of those first like Amazon exclusives or whatever that came out after BotCon said, like the packaging said something about like the club on it.
Oh, it was RC and Grotesque and Counterpunch and Blast Off and those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that's what happened, and then from there it's just like, well, it's just Selects now, or whatever. And it's obviously like the stuff we used to want to get, we can get now. But there's always more to do. There's always more to do, right?
Yeah, there's so many different avenues now, and I just don't think that there's incentive for them to make such a small run, because like now with Selects, like people are buying, like there's so many more people buying collectibles nowadays versus 10, 15 years ago when the adult Transformer collector was a much smaller market. where it's like, okay, maybe then it did justify only making 1,000 pieces. But now it's like, why wouldn't we make 10,000 pieces? We're going to sell out of that selects anyway.
Well, let's just say they can do a small run or a big run, and that the business sense doesn't matter. Like, what niche would BotCon even carve out for themselves now? I mean, it used to be, like you said, Serge, these crazy repaints, but I would point to, like, even just the recent Wreck and Doom guys, particularly Carnivac and Iron Fist. Like, those are BotCon toys from 10 years ago. Particularly Carnivac, because that's a 10-year-old mold. But, like, it's that style. You get a new head, you get, this awesome new paint, and now you've got new characters. But like Serge said earlier, we've got new molds for weird characters. Like, Tarn would have been a BotCon repaint of like Armada Megatron or something, and that would have been like, okay, this is Tarn, good enough, and now we have a Tarn mold. So like, what's the niche? Would they keep doing Shattered Glass? Would they have to come up with some other thing? If they're doing like one toy, they're doing like lots of retooling instead of like little retoolings for heads or thrust fans or whatever.
And that's kind of the vibe that I got.
What's the deal?
That's kind of the vibe that I got from this year's exclusive, or at least what they tried to do with Ladybug. It sounds like they would try to do an original character. But I just, maybe that's where Hasbro is kind of putting the speed bump. It's like, no, like we will do an exclusive, but we can't make a new character.
Which is funny, which again, we're talking about stuff from like 20, 30 years ago. The world changes a lot, right? But like BotCon could only do new characters. They weren't allowed to, like, Hasbro's like, yeah, we'll do toys for you, but like hands off of the real stuff. And so like it was a big deal when they did like this, I think it was the Spider RC. Wasn't that like the first year they had like, they're like, it's a G1 character. Yeah. And it's a new incarnation of her.
Tigatron.
Yeah, stuff happens, and hey, it's an RC toy. Believe it if you want to or not, right? But it's like they had the name, and it was a big deal. And now it's just kind of like, does that make sense for them anymore? Versus just back to new characters only, which given how much you said BotCon's trying to like be a throwback, that is definitely a throwback to that of just all original characters. And BotCon started off with just a couple of 1 or 2 toys, right? Can they go back to just a couple original characters and get that going? But I don't know. I would eat my hat. I don't own a hat. If they actually ever got a Hasbro official toy, at the show, even if it was like you said, like a shared exclusive, which pet peeve of mine, shared exclusive is an oxymoron. That's literally the word means exclusive. You can't share it. Have you ever seen the movie Airheads? It's like the Lone Rangers. There's 3 of you. You're not exactly lone, right? It's like shared exclusive.
Yeah. But anyway, certainty. Like, do you remember toward the end of Fun Pubs days, they started doing these Creo packs for that go on board? I think now we would see Blockies packs.
Right. I could see.
Well, that's kind of like what the Yellow Park stuff.
They would do weird stuff. And it's like the Yellow Park stuff. That's why I'm thinking about that.
Right.
I'm thinking like an actual transforming toy, normal, like produced by Hasbro, not through a licensee.
Yeah. Did Hasbro at some of the Asian conventions, have they done any exclusives like Hasbro?
Are there still Asian transforming?
Yeah, there's the Cybertron Con, but the last few years, it's just been like last year Cybertron Con. They got first dibs at the Studio Series Optimus, the SS86. Yeah, he had a special box over the original packaging, and then they included like a sticker sheet that could give him like different chest windows or stuff like that. Like technically the sticker sheet was exclusive, and then that like box, but it's still the same toy. There was no difference. It was just like, oh, you're at the convention, you can get it like a month early before everybody else. Because I think the convention was in like October or September, and then he started shipping around like late October, early November. So it's like you got it like a month ahead of everybody else with like a cool special sticker sheet. And then they did it.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, that's what I was thinking is like if they're gonna do one, maybe they'll do something like that. Like I guess like how the original. Like the 94 exclusive breakdown, like before they canceled it, it was supposed to be like an early run of one of the Stunticons. Like they gave them a choice, like, all right, well, which one do you want first? And then they ended up canceling them. But like they could do something like that where it's like, okay, like you get this year's PulseCon exclusive early or something. I don't know. Like they could do something like that. Like I think that makes more sense rather than doing like an exclusive toy altogether in a small run where like they have to go through the R&D. Yeah. Like I think that's what they're going to do, like a special box.
I mean, even if it was a repaint, like I don't think they'll even get like their own small run repaint or anything. Again, never say never, right? Who knows? Because leadership changes, and somebody may want to get back into the convention business, right?
Yeah, I mean, like but I don't. One of the staffers on Facebook, and again, I don't know how credible or how involved they were. I just know that it is someone I met at the convention and is a staffer. Did say, like they mentioned, they were like, oh, the person we're talking to at Hasbro, like the previous person that worked with the BotCon like crew is no longer there or something. So it's like, I don't know, maybe the new leadership that they talk to nowadays is like, okay, cool, sure, maybe we'll do something like that. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's a bigger attendance in STCC, so they're willing to do STCC exclusives, but like, who knows? Maybe they'll be like, sure, like we'll do, we'll do a BotCon exclusive.
Part of the issue, right, is the fact that like BotCon, was never a huge convention, and the size of BotCon now is not the same size as it was 10 years ago. And so, like,
it's not even the size of TFCon.
Is there the numbers, like, to actually support it? Like that,
right?
That's where I think
that's why I don't think they'd be willing to do a small run, because it's like, realistically, how many pieces would they make? 500? Even then, and still expecting that every single attendee would buy one.
Yeah, and I don't know how like those agreements go. Would it be like, would Agabus have to upfront that money?
Right.
Yeah.
And buy all these toys and then try to sell them at the show. And if they got like if they got an interesting repaint, I think they would have a chance of like actually selling 500. But
I think Serge is right here. Like if you make an interesting repaint, why would you stop at 500 of them when Hasbro knows they can sell 10,000 of them with selects, or an Amazon pack, or Target pack, or something?
Right, because I mean, like it's like we're even getting like, I don't know, like simpler stuff, like toy colored of G1 characters. Like even those sell, because it's like, well, one, there's people that want that nostalgic deco, but then there's also people who are like, oh crap, I missed the initial run, let me just grab this selects toy colors one, and at least I get the mold and the character. So it's like they're even willing to do simple stuff like that in selects and take up a slot there. And that was one thing that Paul said, was like, well, now they mentioned on streams, and they mentioned it in the most recent stream, it's like we only have so many slots. So it's like, would maybe they then take a character who is possibly on a chopping block and maybe push him to a BotCon exclusive because they just can't find a spot for them? Like, maybe that's kind of what Agabus is hoping for. Like, hey, you were going to cancel this one anyway. Like, why don't we just get it?
Or is the person they're talking to at Hasbro just like trying not to shut a door and being
right?
They're like, hey, we're just like, hey, yeah, maybe we could talk about that, and they're like, okay, cool. But they're they're not just saying, hey, fuck off.
I feel like it's like when Hasbro. I feel like it's like when Hasbro reached out to Dollar General and shared the stuff with them, and they're like, hey, would you like to start selling Transformers? Like, that was kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I think what Rob said, I think that's maybe the extent of the conversation. It's like Hasbro was like, okay, cool, yeah, we'll let you know. And they're taking it as like, oh yeah, we're in talks for an exclusive. We're so close to landing our own exclusive, and it's just maybe just a corporate response, like, yeah, sure, we'll think about it.
And plus,
I do think there's room for other avenues to have slots. We know they've reduced slots over the past 2 years to conserve costs or whatever, but like, I think there's room for more slots to be added through other places.
What do you mean slots?
For releases.
For releases. They release a certain number of figures per year, and now that number is less than it was.
For budgetary reasons. Yeah. Yeah, like they've cut a wave, and some waves have gotten smaller. Like maybe they used to include 3 new deluxes, and now they just include 2 new deluxes or something like that. Yeah. They've mentioned it multiple times on stream that, like, due to budgetary reasons, there's only a certain number of characters or toys that can be released per year, whether that be at retail or exclusive. But and that's one of the challenges that the designers have said was like, well, there's so many characters and toys that we want to make. we just can't fit it all within a reasonable timeline, where it's like, well, we have to release all the Constructicons, so we want to make sure that we release all the Constructicons first before we start doing other characters that people are asking for. It's like, so that's maybe where BotCon can come in. It's like, all right, there's this character that we wanted to do, like those recently canceled capsule, like the repaint of Cybertron Starscream into Skywarp, like that's been essentially canceled. Like, so maybe something like that could be made into a BotCon exclusive. It's like, okay, yeah, they'll do a repaint of like Cybertron Skywarp. All right. That would make sense because it's like, sure, we're going to cancel it anyway. It's not like it's, a character that too many people are clamoring for. Sure, why not? Just take that one.
Well, I just think the answer why not is just because why bother?
Yeah, I think maybe specifically BotCon is not the answer to open another couple slots. But I do think there's room for them to return to conventions, not HasCon necessarily, but maybe something that's revamped. I mean, you can showcase all those brands. It's different now than when they were trying before. Like the collector market is way different than 6 years ago.
Right. Yeah,
I think there's room to try.
Yeah, I would love for them to return back to BotCon like as a presence, like even if there is no exclusive, like just maybe do a couple reveals, one panel or something like that. But even Christian and I talked about this too. It's like, well, nowadays we also have the pulse streams where we didn't have that 10, 15 years ago. Like 10, 15 years ago, it was BotCon and SDCC. And then slowly it became BotCon, or it became SDCC, NYCC, and now they do like the London Comic-Con too for some reason. But now it's like, yeah, they have those 3 conventions, plus PulseCon, plus the Pulse streams. So it's like, at some points we're getting monthly streams and monthly reveals. It's like, is there really a reason for them to spend the money and logistics to go out to a convention?
Yeah, it's definitely way cheaper to do a Pulse stream for half an hour than it is to do a whole con.
You can do a Pulse stream for a lot cheaper and then a much bigger audience, where you can connect to thousands of people versus the couple hundred that showed up to BotCon and the couple tens that bought the weekend pass if they decide to make it locked behind a price wall.
I mean, I think BotCon would have to be a much bigger show to get them in it at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's important to remember, like, how did Hasbro get involved in BotCon in the first place? Transformers was on the way out. The Hartmans, just one of them fired an email. Like they were just emailing, phone call. Sorry, not email. Like they just started calling the office and getting directs around and leaving voicemails until they got somebody that called them back and was just like, "Oh, that's cool. You're doing that's kind of neat." And like they didn't have as big of a corporate overlord at that time, right? And they were able to make something happen. And then it's just like they became more and more working with the BotCon brand because they were already involved in it because they started small. And then, it started getting a little too big for its britches. We had the OFTCC stuff that then turned into a mess. And then like Hasbro's like, this is making us look bad because now we're so tied to the hip with this. And then they went to FunPub and had a real long relationship until what's his name at FunPub just like wanted to retire, and at which point they bounced. And it's like, I feel like they just had a legacy of being with it at the time because it started like when Hasbro was totally different in '94 versus to when they left it behind in 16, and to where it's like, then they step back and then of course they're like, oh, we'll just do our own convention. But it's, I think now turns like, oh, hey, come back to BotCon. It's like, for your tiny show, like,
right.
I think
Phil, do they care?
Phil in the chat made a good point about that the shows that Hasbro does are massive national level, like press level shows, and I think that's probably true. Like if they can't get a press release out of it, like to go on IGN or wherever else, like they're not gonna do it. And so like BotCon's not gonna. There's no press releases for a BotCon.
Right. I think, and that's.
I think that something they could like that would be reasonable is, can we have someone like Mark or something come and be a guest at the show and be able to talk about behind the scenes stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he probably couldn't like reveal anything because they're going to save that for their own streams if they want to have good numbers to show their bosses. Or SDCC where it's has much more bigger thing, but like they could probably get some people to show up as guests, which could be cool, and maybe over time a relationship could build there again if BotCon can get larger.
Yeah, because that was one thing that was like one thing that Paul and I brought up too during that conversation. Was that they could just reach like the whole collecting like market and fandom has completely changed post pandemic. Where now it's such a large demographic, and because it's so ingrained into social media and all of these large platforms like and websites like now IGN, Bleeding Cool, comicbooknews.com, like all these large pop culture centered websites are reporting on Transformers toys. Like it's not just your fan sites like Sabretron and TFW, posting stuff like that. It's like now they can do a pulse stream, get tens of thousands of views, and then get additional views from IGN posting an article, about the new toys or the new pre-orders that are going up. Whereas like before the pandemic and back in like the old BotCon days, it was like they were really just focused on the kids. And because that was the largest market at the time, and now it's like they've said and this has been across the industry, is that the collector market is just now the dominant market. So it makes more sense for them to like, let's just do a stream versus just going to like a small show in Fort Wayne.
Being that you were at BotCon, like if BotCon all of a sudden, like for some reason, was pulling 20,000 people to the show or whatever, like I think Hasbro would be listening, right?
Right.
But did you get a vibe that the show was? I mean, this was what, year 4 for them?
Think so. Yeah, because they did Nashville.
It must be doing well enough, right? Like it must be doing well. It may not be making gangbusters, but I assume it's not losing money like it did in the Hartman days. To be honest, like they did not make money. They made debt, lots and lots of credit card debt, unfortunately. But did you, just because you were talking to people, did anybody talk about that or no idea?
Well, the one thing I heard was that hosting it on Father's Day definitely killed the crowd. I heard that this year's crowd was noticeably smaller than last year's. Like Sunday in particular, from those who were there for the weekend, said that just Sunday was just absolutely dead. Like there was a point where there were more dealers than attendees in the dealer hall. I don't know if maybe they were, like this is the only weekend we can do, or this is the only weekend we can afford at this hotel. But it was a very poor choice having it on Father's Day. And I remember last year when they announced it at the end of the show, because Paul went to last year's show to vend. And he told me that when they announced it, that all the dealers were, understandably upset, and that Paul had talked to, I think it was Pete or somebody. Like he went up to him and was like, dude, Father's Day, like, what are you thinking? And they were like, no, it's great. All the dads will come. Like this will be their Father's Day present. Come to BotCon. And it's like, okay, dude, it's
choice, Cotton.
Right. It's a real bold choice. Like I'm sure there were some people that wanted to spend theirs, but it's like, like I went back home because I wanted to spend Father's Day with my dad. I didn't want to spend Father's Day at a BotCon. Same thing with like Paul. He is a dad, and he wanted to go see his dad and hang out with his family on BotCon or on Father's Day, not be at BotCon. I think they were really like pushing for it to be like, yeah, like all the dads are gonna want to be here.
No.
Yeah.
So for the time you were there Saturday, did the dealer room look like as busy as a TFCon dealer room does midday on Saturday?
No.
Okay.
It was.
You can't walk in a TFCon midday on Saturday.
No. Yeah. Like all the like that. I'm telling you, that first Baltimore year, I know it was the post-pandemic, so like everybody was thirsty to buy, but like it felt like the stock exchange floor. Like you couldn't even hear each other. Like people would come up to the booth and ask you about a toy, and you'd be like, "Huh?" Because like you just could not hear anything. And then even the last Chicago show, like you couldn't even walk. Like the booths were just so jam-packed and the aisles were so jam-packed that like I think there was a moment where I was just like, I'm just gonna wait it out until I shop. Like some people even said like they didn't even.
There were still like hundreds of people in line to get in.
Oh yeah,
That wasn't even all the people.
Right. Like if you go to TF cons, if you wake up early enough at TF con, there's of course if you have the weekend pass, you get first dibs. Well, there's like the VIP pass gets like 30 minutes before the weekend pass, but then the weekend pass gets like either 30 minutes or an hour before the general admission. I think at the last Baltimore,
there's some staggering, yeah.
Yeah, last year's Baltimore show, I remember walking into the dealer room and there was a gigantic line wrapping around. And I overheard one of the TFCon staffers say, yeah, that's the general admission line. They're like, that's the longest general admission line we have had in TFCon history. It's like TFCon, like they're getting big to the point where the day of attendees are starting to cause a gigantic line. Where at least a couple years ago, it was just pre-registrants being excited for the dealer room to open. Now it's like people showing up the day of, and there's a huge line just to get in. So like the difference between the crowds is like night and day.
Did you I think a lot of the shows live and die on do your dealers want to show up, and your dealers want to show up based on how they do on sales. Do you have any idea how the dealers did overall? Like, yeah, Sunday sucked, but I mean Saturday is always the bulk of your sales anyways.
Yeah,
like, yeah, you still will sell stuff on Sunday, but it's a fraction. Yeah. Compared to Saturday. But
the only dealer I knew personally on a personal level were the Transformerland guys and then Art Fire, so I'd have to talk to them to see how things went. Yeah, I didn't hear much rumblings, at least. Probably I would have heard more if I was there on Sunday and how things went. But like I said earlier, it's like the dealers at BotCon, it's guys that have been vending at BotCon for years. So I kind of think like that also has a thing tied towards it where it's...
Both of those guys also show up to TF cons.
Sure, but I think a good amount of them were like heavily BotCon only guys.
Oh, the other ones, yeah. I mean, and I think knowing like the kind of stuff both Chuck and Transformerland Matt bring, like, I think they might have a bad year, but it's still a good year or a good show. You know what I mean? Just because they bring so much stuff and so much high quality stuff and such a variety of stuff, and they're both
and I think BotCon, but I think BotCon is definitely the place if you're trying to sell stuff that like Chuck and Transformerland sell. But Chuck also told me that he's planning on having a gigantic booth at TFCon because we actually live in the same suburb, so I live like down the street from him now. And we were talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, like I'm planning on having like a big thing at TFCon." So like it's this year. Oh, and then the Transformerland guys, they moved to Wisconsin, so they're a lot closer now too. They used to be in Florida, but now they're living in Wisconsin.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they moved to Wisconsin about a year or two ago, and I was talking to them, and they're like, "Yeah, we're also gonna have a gigantic booth at TFCon Chicago." So it sounds like this year's.
I'm even more excited.
There you go.
Yeah, this year sounds like it's gonna be pretty bumping. There's a lot of great stuff going on.
I don't buy as much these days. Like I buy third-party Masterpiece stuff, and like maybe a random Hasbro thing here and there if it's like some weird off-the-wall character that no one else is ever going to do anything for. And so I don't know. I'm looking to fill out some like weird Japanese repaint stuff. I'm not going to buy like a box Dino King or anything, but I'd like
but
to
you want a Sky Hyper. I want a Sky Hyper.
Yeah, like honestly, I'm gearing up for a Grand Maximus. Is kind of where I'm going. I don't know where I would put it. Is the problem? Like
I do want Battle Gaia.
I have the knockoff Battle Gaia, and I'm good. So, yeah,
I'm going with weird repaints. That's
Well, I was thinking about like a Great Shot. I have Blue Bacchus.
Okay. Yeah. Great Shot's a good one, sure.
Yeah. I want to get Great
Shot. I think you bought a Grandis off of Transformerland a couple years ago, right? That was a couple shows ago.
Yeah. That was fun. I was like, I'm gonna go buy a Grandis, and so I went and did it before the show opened. And I was like, okay, I'm done spending money.
Right. Easy enough.
Cool.
It turns out like Peter was with me when I was like talking to Transformerland. Cause it was before the show because I was helping set up. And he's like, you need to buy that because Peter's the world's biggest enabler. But afterwards, talking to me, he was like, oh, if you didn't buy it, I probably was going to buy it. He just
so he was trying to not he was trying to not spend it himself.
Yeah, but he just Lee finally got himself a Grandis or whatever, and even that figure, which was already expensive, has like gone up in price, especially the condition I got it from Transform, which was complete and bone white. Knock on wood.
You got it for what, like 1,200 or something like that?
It was a little over 1,000. I think it was under 1,100, but I can't remember exactly. But it was just one of those like Grandis, and he calls his name.
You brought it over to us, and it was like, oh wow, that was an incredibly reasonable price. That's what I remember thinking about it.
Yeah.
If you're in buying Transformers, you get it. But
them and Chuck had a bunch of like heavy hitter stuff like that. Like they had, like just some stuff that, I mean, granted, my knowledge of like the weirdo Japanese G1 stuff is not as deep as others. So like it's like a lot of stuff that I've like never seen before, even knew existed. Like, but it's like as soon as you see those price tags, it's like, oh, this is definitely something you don't see every day. So I'm sure they'll bring some heavy hitters like that to the Chicago show.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. I'm those are like two of my favorite dealers. So, and they weren't at Baltimore, and I was really sad.
No. So. Yeah, I think the last Baltimore, they were in between the move between Florida and Wisconsin.
And Chuck just didn't show up. I don't know why.
Yeah. But, well, for Chuck, I mean, talking to him. I remember that. Talking to Chuck, he ships all of his stuff, so it is like logistics and also like very anxiety inducing to ship literally tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I hate it already.
He told us a story at DairyCon about a lost package, and it's like, dude, I can't even begin to imagine.
Well, are we about?
Should be the show.
Are we about up?
Do we have any other stuff? Yeah. All right. Well, there we go.
Seems like they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the consensus.
So.
Yeah. Ain't happening.
I'd be very surprised. I don't have any ill will towards BotCon other than like, obviously one of their people involved in the consortium is not a favorite person to a lot of people, myself included. But, I hear Agabus, the dude, is like just like a really nice guy, whatever, good person. Right. But I don't have any ill will towards him. It's just like, good luck with that, guys. He's trying to I think you're barking up the wrong tree. But hey, prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if it happens, great, but probably not.
There's room for a lot of cons, and there's room for a lot of exclusives.
Yeah, right. I hope people don't take this.
It works. Truly.
Yeah, I hope people don't take this show as like me shitting on BotCon and like the show sucked. It was terrible. Like you said, there is always room. Like I always want to have another show. Like, but unfortunately, TFCon is my priority. Like if anything else, like TFCon is the priority show for me that I will travel to and allocate my time and money towards. If BotCon somehow someday gets to that level of fun for me, then maybe I'll consider adding it to the yearly rotation. But like for now, it's like I got DairyCon in the spring because it's literally a 2-hour drive away. And then there's TFCon in the fall. DairyCon is such a fun time. Like it is like the thing about DairyCon though is you have to go in knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you're getting in for $10 at the door. Tables are $10. It's like it's an overglorified meetup, but it's like it's a blast. It's the best time ever. Yeah. Like I genuinely look forward to that show every year.
And it's just a day, right?
Yeah, it's just Saturday. Like they have some stuff on Friday, and by some stuff is like they'll have like, I don't know, like a game tournament or something. But usually we'll get there on Friday, set up, and then we go to the bar, get hammered, and then wake up the next day and vend, and then pack up and go home. But that's mostly what we look forward to.
It would be awfully convenient if someone getting married were to have a wedding event, on or near DairyCon, so I could attend it.
Probably will not. I will not be getting married in Fond du Lac if that's what you were.
No, not getting married, but like, you're
not getting married at the Cow Palace if that's what you're insinuating.
The suit fitting, the Friday before, and darn it, you got to come into town.
It's like my bachelor party is going to be at DairyCon.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe we could move the bachelor party to DairyCon. That would be a choice for sure.
We'll chat about it.
There you go. So on that note, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, guys, for joining me tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. We had a good chat out there. And we will see everybody next week.
See ya.
Bye.